Hey guys, this is Norman over with SoundTraxx here, and today we're going to talk about the Steam Dynamo on the Tsunami 2 decoder and how it interacts with the lights on your model. So let's get started. So for those of you who do not know, on most steam locomotives there is an appliance called a dynamo. And this is a small steam-driven generator which is used to generate electricity on the model. On our Tsunami 2, this is mapped to the headlight key by default. And if you press the headlight, you can hear the dynamo spool up. And this is something we actually get questions on fairly frequently. What is that whining sound that I hear whenever I turn on the headlight? Well, in most cases, it's the dynamo. So, we actually recently ventured out to our friends over at the Durango in Silverton, and we got this footage that you can see appearing on screen right now, where we got a short video of the dynamo on one of their locomotives starting up and spooling down again. The reason we have this turning on with the headlight is because it is generating the electrical power the headlight is using. And thus, whenever you turn on the headlight, the dynamo also has to turn on. There are many different types of dynamos out there. The one you saw in the video previously, you may have noticed, it has that little diamond shape on its exhaust stack. And that is actually a muffler. So if you were replicating that specific dynamo with our Tsunami 2, you would want to select the muffled dynamo. Whereas if your locomotive does not have an apparatus like that on its dynamo, then you would just see a straight pipe coming out of the dynamo on the model, on the locomotive, in which case you would just want to select one of the standard dynamo sounds. So you can see right here on this model is actually where we have our dynamo. And you can see it doesn't have that muffler on it, so in this case we would want to select one of the standard dynamos. Now there's a couple more variations on the dynamo. So you may have noticed earlier when we showed the Dynamo Selection in our sound selection reference, there was also a double and a triple dynamo. Some locomotives, because either they have been refitted with them for the additional electrical appliances necessary for running and preservation, or just because that's how much power they needed in the first place, have 2 and sometimes 3 dynamos. For instance, this picture here of 4014, you can see that she has 2 dynamos. And in fact, 4449 has 3. There are a few different CVs on the Tsunami 2 that you can use for adjusting the dynamo. First off, we have the Dynamo Selection CV in CV125. This is how we select between all of those different dynamo values that we saw earlier. So, if I spool up the dynamo here, and then I change CV125 to, let's just go with a value of 7, you can hear that the dynamo started up again, and in fact that time we actually selected the triple dynamo, so you could actually hear all 3 dynamos starting up in sequence. Now, there are also a few other CVs that you can use to adjust the dynamo. First off, we obviously have an individual volume control for the dynamo, which is in CV133. So, if I adjust CV133 to 255, you can hear that dynamo gets a lot louder. Let's put it back now. Now, we also have the option to map the dynamo separately from the headlight. So let's say you want to map your headlights to a different function, or you want your headlight and your backup light to be actually on different function buttons for whatever reason. Well, in that scenario, you can actually put your dynamo on a separate function button as well, and it is controlled by CV1.299. So the reason you would want to do this, though, is because the dynamo actually has a unique interaction with our dyno light effect on the Tsunami 2 steam decoder, where if the dynamo is not spooled up, you will not get any light out of any light set to the dyno light effect. And in fact, as it spools up, you will see the headlight actually increases in brightness as the dynamo spools up. So the dyno light and the dynamo effect actually interact with each other in a couple of really unique ways there. Not all locomotives, however, had a dynamo. If you go back in time to the era George models, let's say in his General, that locomotive did not have a dynamo. So in that video, he actually mentions he mutes the dynamo and he selected the ashpan light to give the soft breathing effect that you would expect to see from a oil lantern. Similarly, for our friends over on the other side of the pond, the UK models, a lot of their steam engines, even right to the very end of steam, didn't have dynamos. So you would want to unmap this function completely and select a different lighting effect in order to get an accurate representation of a UK steam locomotive. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you have any further questions, be sure to check out our user's guides under the manuals section at SoundTraxx.com. If you have any further questions, you can also email us at support@SoundTraxx.com. That's going to be all for this video, guys. Be sure to click that like and subscribe button so you get notified the next time we upload great content like this. Thanks for watching.